some equipment and got, thing up on my roof. It was actually solid. I was getting downloads in the 20-something.
Okay.
Stuff, and then they had contract for bats and it went okay. That went okay. And I went to AT&T and
Okay, it is 6 o'clock.
added a line.
Everybody's logged in. Call the December 13th meeting of the county board to order at this time. So we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Roll call will show two supervisors absent, Supervisor Bischel and Supervisor Eisenhuth.
Look for a motion to approve of the agenda.
Omar, so moved.
Okay, Bomar, is there a second?
Second, Schmidt.
Any discussion? Hearing none, then I would call the vote. Green to approve, red to dis.
You got to vote, Dean.
The button is sticking to me.
19 yes, 0 no.
Members of the public wishing to be heard? Seeing none, then we will move on to the consent agenda. I would seek a motion to approve this consent agenda.
Waiter makes a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
For sure on seconds.
Any discussion? Hearing none, then we will call the vote. Green to approve, red to disapprove.
Nineteen yes, 0 no.
Okay, agenda passes. Okay, reports. Jump to the broadband update, 24/7 telecom. Randy, Jim.
Oh, wait, I thought you were doing the sheriff first.
Oh, okay, that's right, we're moving.
Change that.
Is Karen here?
Yes, she's in the back.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll start with ladies first. So Karen? Introduced to the board Karen Heffler, who has been our clerk of courts for 22 years.
Long time. Yeah.
Okay, Karen, any words you'd like to say?
I did not prepare a speech because I'm an emotional person and I really struggle with saying goodbye. So I'm just going to tell you how honored I am. Thank you. Thank you so much for the recognition. I have absolutely loved my job, loved it. I've seen so much in my 22 years. The sheriff this morning at the department head meeting kind of went through just a little bit. He touched on the beginning of his career, and it really made me think about how when I started, it was a paper world. And I walked into the office, Janet Rubenzer-Pike and Tim Scobie talked me into running. And he apologized to me this last week. And I said, no, it's been a great run. And I loved my job. And I didn't know what it was. And I arrived there, and here were, 12 women it was all women, just really working as a well-oiled machine. And it was beautiful to watch. And they were all experienced, 25 years. Vicki Bolivar retired a few years ago after 46 years. Judges that were so welcoming to me. But a lot of paper, and any LTE that we ever had said, I've never seen this much paper in my life. And looking back on it, it's just incredible how we, would pull files, have to file all the paperwork, put them back on the shelf, get them to the judge. It was just incredible. And now it's all electronic. And that's a different set of stress and stuff. But I've seen so much. I am so very honored and grateful to have served you for 22 years. It has just been one of the best chapters of my life, and I thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. I remember when you started, so I'm really starting to feel old. Well, this next person, nobody knows. This is Sheriff Jim Kowalczyk, 45 years in February, if you would have went to February.
Correct.
45 years dedication to this county.
Today at the department head meeting, there was a few in there that weren't even born when I first started my career as sheriff. So I'm going to probably be the one that's going to be teary-eyed. Might shed a tear today. So I just want to give you a brief history of when I started and the positions I held, and then I have a little bit of a speech, and then we'll get you on with your meeting. 1978, I was hired on with the Chippewa County Traffic Police. It was a separate entity besides the Sheriff's Department. Pretty much did the same work. We were more traffic orientated than the Sheriff's Department. We were very similar in nature to what the State Patrol is today. In 1980, we merged. The Chief Traffic Officer, Jim Revor, ran for sheriff, merged the two departments, and I became a patrolman. I served in that capacity until 1988 when I was promoted into the West Central Drug Enforcement Group. It was a multi-drug group that was formed in '88 with a multitude of counties, agencies, 13 to be exact. Served in that capacity until 1990, was promoted to an investigator up in the investigations division, and served as an investigator until I ran for sheriff in 2007. Very fortunate to be elected. When I ran, there was 6 other candidates. Again, it was a very interesting race. It was brand new to me. It was a challenge, and again, I was fortunate enough to be elected by the citizens of Chippewa County. So, since 2008 till the current date, I've been your sheriff, and very proud to serve as your sheriff. So, with that in mind, I just want to express my thanks to each and every one of you. This is truly an honor to be recognized for reaching this milestone in my life, retirement. After spending these many years serving Chippewa County with so many memories and making so many incredible friendships, I'm leaving with great deal of contentment in my heart. I owe so many debts of gratitude to so many people. To you, the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors, past and present, for your ongoing support of the Chippewa County Sheriff's Department. Thank you for your support, cooperation, and trust that you have provided to help me exercise my duties over the years as sheriff. Excuse me. To all the Chippewa County employees, what a great bunch of people you are. Chippewa County is fortunate to have so many hardworking and dedicated people. Thank you for your friendships that I have forged. You've all been an extraordinary part of my life. You provided me with a wonderful work environment. To the people of Chippewa County for their support and confidence that they entrusted in me for the last 16 years serving as their sheriff. It's been a pleasure to serve you. Thank you to all the men and women of the Sheriff's Department. law enforcement at Chippewa County's best. To all the current employees of the Chippewa County Sheriff's Department, I'm extremely proud of what we achieved together. You all perform your duties with integrity and professionalism. My respect goes out to all of you. Lastly, to my wife, Nancy, and my sons and their families, my mom and dad, my entire friends, my entire circle of friends for their support. It meant everything to me. So with that in mind, I put together something this morning. Took me most of the day today, but I titled it God in Chippewa County. I asked for strength, and God in Chippewa County gave me difficulties to make me strong. I asked for wisdom. God in Chippewa County gave me problems to solve. I asked for prosperity. God in Chippewa County gave me brawn and brains to work. I asked for courage. God in Chippewa County gave me dangers to overcome. I asked for patience, and God in Chippewa County placed me in situations where I was forced to wait. I asked for love, and God in Chippewa County gave me troubled people to help. I asked for favors, and God gave me opportunities. I received nothing I wanted, and I received everything I needed. All my prayers have been answered. Thank you, and I love you all.
I would add one thing that Jim forgot. He also served as a deputy warden for me in Chippewa County. His kids evidently don't need shoes anymore. Thank you.
Pleasure working with you, Dean.
Okay. What a pleasure to be able to recognize these people. We'll move on to the broadband update, 24/7 telecom.
Yeah, before the first one, Jim comes up, I just wanted to just remind the board that this is a report on the first set of resolutions that the county board passed to do broadband. So there was a second set of resolutions. We're going to bring those back in January because there was some funding they didn't receive to see if the county board wants to continue to allocate those funds for that purpose. But this report, we didn't want to confuse it because it is a little confusing, is just on the first resolution that you passed for ARPA. Come on, Jim.
Okay, well, thank you, Randy, and members of the board. This is a tough act to follow here. I guess I drew the short straw with these guys doing the reports. I get to go first. So my reports will be I'm Jim, by the way, Jim Kuzlik from 24/7 Telecom. We did 2 projects in the town of Howard and the town of Wheaton. So I'll give you an update on both of those. The first report is, excuse me, on the town of Howard. With this project, and I'll start by saying for 24/7, we had several projects that we worked on through this year, starting in 2022. A lot of those projects were actually in Dunn County. These 2 projects were the only 2 we had in Chippewa County. So our focus, unfortunately for Chippewa County, was in Dunn County, but we did manage to get quite a bit of work done this year. So for the town of Howard, we have not started plowing any fiber in that project. We have done some engineering, and we've ordered some materials and that sort of thing, but I guess another comment would be is reaching out to the customers in the project area. We had a town hall meeting in both the town of Howard and the town of Wheaton to update the residents in that area of what our plans were for plowing. So that's the work we've done in the town of Howard up to this point. A few of the items that we included in the report for you that you see up on the screen, I'm going to not go through everything. I'll just hit the highlights of that. This is a fiber to the home service that we're providing, so it's fiber directly to the home. We will be delivering a minimum speed package of 300 meg down, 300 meg up. So symmetrical 300 meg is our base package, and we will offer service up to 1 gig symmetrical for anybody in that service area. We intend to plow about 22 miles of fiber in the town of Howard, and that's going to be just the main line. That's not going to include any line extensions. So there's actually going to be more than 22 when we get all said and done. Back in, or when I sent the report out that you see on the screen, it does say 125 locations that we would be serving. We actually agreed to provide you with 131 locations. That was an error in that report. We will be providing another report, and I'll make sure that gets updated in the next report. So what we will be providing is 131 locations, a minimum of 131 locations in that project. So I apologize for the error in that. You're going to see a similar error, I guess, in the town of Wheaton project. So I just wanted to point that out, that we will be reaching 131 locations. And that was outlined in the agreement that we signed with Chippewa County. We did identify in the town of Howard 6 business locations. And for this project, because construction has ended for us this year, we wouldn't be getting started until at least the third quarter of 2024. So we anticipate getting done by the end of 2024, and that at that time, we would be requesting the final ARPA funds from the county at that time for the town of Howard. So the town of Wheaton is the next report that I'll update you on. In this project, we have completed all of the mainline construction, including line extensions. We've got most of the drops plowed in this project area as well. This, again, is a fiber to the home service. We are offering minimum speeds of 300 by 300 symmetrical and options up to 1 gig symmetrical. In this project, we anticipated plowing 43 miles of mainline construction. We've actually plowed 69 miles when you factor in the line extensions. So just a quick description of what a line extension is. The mainline construction and what we based our estimates on was just the route miles along the roads. But then you get maybe a house that's back off the main line or a dead end road someplace. That's where we would do a line extension. So we limit our drops to 500 feet or less. So if you've got a quarter-mile driveway, we consider that a line extension, and that was not factored into our original estimate of miles. So those line extensions add up. There's quite a few miles of those. So we, again, I reported in the report that we would be serving 460 locations. I apologize again for the error, but the number there should actually be 478 locations in that project that we will be serving. And in the town of Wheaton, we've identified 18 business that we plan to get service to. So for this project, because we've gotten all of the mainline construction done, right now we're just doing installs. I don't know if we'll be done by the end of December, so I'll say that we'll be requesting the ARPA funds in the first quarter of 2023. So that concludes my project. Is there any questions, or my update on the projects? Is there any questions you have on those?
Mr. Schmidt?
I represent the town of Howard for your information. And I know our town chairman's been fielding questions that people thought they were going to be hooked up this year yet. And you're saying it's going to be basically the end of 24, correct?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay. So, and I don't know if that was a misunderstanding, if they're talking to people in Dunn County maybe, and they drew the conclusion that they were the same time or what, I don't know.
Yeah, well, so the question I would have is, I wonder if they were at the town hall meetings that we had.
I can't answer
covered
that.
that in the town hall meetings, and the discussion was,
Okay.
we do have 2 years, a 2-year window to get the construction done. And I think at the time, we really didn't have a schedule, a set schedule, so, we weren't making any promises to get done.
And I don't know if they're upset or not. I just know Tom asked me, I don't know, about a week or two ago about this, and I thought that's timely, and I sent him a copy of the agenda, so.
Yeah.
Parts.
Actually, Tom had reached out to us directly. I think we addressed that. There was
Okay.
a customer that we contacted and explained it to him. So I think I know which one you're talking about there. So we've contacted that customer directly and talked to him.
I just know there was questions, and I thought I better ask because I'm not doing my job.
Yep. And I think what the concern was, I think for that particular person, was they were afraid that we weren't going to come to them at all.
Right.
And we had to explain that we didn't get there this year, but we do still plan to come. So.
And as I recall from what I heard is everybody in town of Howard, when you're done, is supposed to have high-speed fiber.
Yep.
Correct? Yeah.
Yep.
That's still good. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Move on to broadband update, Natera.
First of all, congratulations, Sheriff Paul. No, I was just saying congratulations. Hope you don't remember me in any of the court reports you ever went through. And Karen, congratulations to you. So my update's gonna be pretty short. Unfortunately, we have all of our materials allocated for the Reconnect program, which was a year before that we got that. So all the resin for the PEDs and the fiber, we were working pretty hard on a Cornell West project, a Highway 27 project, and a 64 project that was east of Cornell. So we passed about 500 homes, and we put miles and miles of fiber in, and just to move forward with that. So we weren't really sitting on our hands, but with the leftover fiber that we did have, I just want to go through quick with you. We didn't have very much, so we were able to do this 64 little stretch right here. And this map doesn't show you where we currently are, but we're like all over these areas, and these are just like cutoffs off our network. And we did another, this is like off of K with the 250th, another 200 stretch off here. I mean, all together on those homes are probably less than 1,500, but this is already connected to the part of the network that we already had. And with the PEDs and fiber that we had in stock that are over it, it's about all we could do for this session. So it's unfortunate because we actually had a crew from our contractors that were able to do more stuff. We just couldn't get the material and couldn't find it. So we did order it right when we got this grant. It's in or going to be in for 2023, and we should really hit it pretty good. As you can see, I'm color deficient, but I think it's orange maybe. Is that it? You know, that's what we plan to finish on 2023. And then the lighter color green thing, I think that's yeah, something like that. I think the match, it doesn't even match the legend and the color down there, but that was probably my mistake.
The top button, I think has a laser pointer.
I can't even see that from the different colors on the thing. I'm not very good at color games. So yeah, and we'll be able to finish those projects. Like I said, the fiber's in. I know we asked for $265,000 of the $531,000 of the project, and that was mostly towards just those little projects. And the material itself, the material loan was approximately $870,000 itself. So I would imagine once everything's mostly finished, we'll ask for the rest of the monies. But we won't do that until, obviously we have a better, more complete report. So
That total location was 481 locations right now, and seems like a poor start to this year that we only did like 15, but we're on our way, and next year we should be able to do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, like it shows on there. And then I don't know, did they send you a map of our full? Do you have one like of our whole, just to show what is connected? But I suppose I can do that in January too.
I think we have that with the January
Okay.
resolution.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I have for now. And hopefully the next go around we have, this will be a lot more moving forward. But unfortunately, it's just a material supply thing, supply chain.
I had people ask me if they're in the future, area, will you approach them when it becomes available, or do they have to get their names out and?
Yeah, no, usually the best we do is we'll have a prospect list already, but we'll go through and we'll have as many homes as we can find to contact them, their information.
So just tell them to relax and wait for you to contact them.
And usually if we can't contact them, we'll send like a door knocker out there too, just to see if because it's a lot easier for us to serve those people as we're coming through than having to come back and install later on.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we try our best to try to contact everybody ahead of time so we know.
Okay, great, thank you.
Supervisor Steele?
Ryan, we discussed when we were doing this, funding this, that there's a lot of talk about east of 27.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yep. Southeast? You're talking about southeast?
I'm talking about going out towards Arnold,
Yep.
down M, start going that way.
Yep.
I'm hearing now, hopefully next year.
Yep. Yep.
The hopefully really bothers me.
Yeah. Well, no. Well,
Next year, or is it hopefully next?
and I know you were at the town meeting that I was at, right?
Yes.
Where we talked about it and Jay was there and stuff like that. Our plan was, and we had the contract already, is like I said, was the whole supply thing, but the fiber is on hand or shortly is going to be here because it was like a year out. Shouldn't be a problem to get that, but I don't play, if I was a betting man, yeah.
Well, the people, pledged the money last year.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's all this year.
Yeah, I understand.
Next year.
I totally understand. I totally get it. And that's why I was like, well, we're not sitting on our hands. We passed 500 homes this build season. You know what I mean? So it's like, I understand where the people are coming from, and we're trying to do our best between materials and supply chains and moving forward to serve all the rest of Chippewa County when there's a lot of people that aren't even trying that, and if we had the supply, we had the contractor this year, we would have done that. That's the unfortunate thing.
I guess, it looks to me like it's just, there's a big population here and a big population over here and a big population over here, and we'll run through all that. And then, sorry to say that I'm talking not just the town of Ruby, but the town east of that has almost zero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, when they're scoring grants at that time, what they do is when you apply for a grant, they'll go for the densest, and then they'll go out to where it's less dense. So they can try to hit as many people in Chippewa County as they can for the first round. And unfortunately, that's where then your cost per construction's getting higher, but that is how they score that on a lot of those things, is they try to get to as many people as they can on that. That's one of your scores. But our plan still is to move in the southeastern area and fill that. Unfortunately, last PSC grant, where we were just south of the town of Ruby there too, was unsuccessful. And that's what our next January meeting is going to be about. And we're going to move forward with, there's 3 more grants coming around. There's a $14 million state one, a $41 million state one, and then one anywhere between $800 million to $1.1 billion. And that's where we're going to hopefully continue construction on, fulfilling all of Chippewa County between all of us to fulfill that. So we have a game plan. It just takes time, and the materials was part of the problem this year. And as long as we can order them as soon as we get these grants, we just have to do that. And that's what we did here. And fortunately, it just didn't come in. There was just a push out on it. So we did all we could with the Reconnect grant that we got through federal funding with the material we had.
Now, you run the one out, 64 towards Stanley.
We went the one towards Bloomer.
Oh, towards Bloomer?
Yeah, we're running that way. Yep. And then we also did one on the 64 part. We did one towards Gilman.
Gilman, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And that's not on this map, but like I said, this looks like it's kind of blocked out, but we have areas of connection all through this part, and that's just extensions off our current network.
Right.
For just this ARPA program that we're talking about now. So. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Broadband update, Bloomer?
Oh, I'm Travis with Bloomer Telephone. Okay. And we had the two projects that you guys approved for Town of Tilden and Town of Eagle Point. We broke ground right away in May in Tilden, and then we started to continue our way east towards Eagle Point. We started in Eagle Point around July timeframe, end of June. We were able to utilize the same Wisconsin-based construction company and splicing that we've been able to use in our prior grants, so it's nice to keep the dollars in the state. We installed roughly 86 miles of fiber optics this year, and we continue to get signups through the project, before the project, and we'll keep hearing from people through the winter, because people will kind of hear how great it is, and you get the mailers, throw it away, and then pretty soon they find out what they're throwing away or why they had door hangers. So we'll get some of that pickup effect next year. So update on the marketing we did do to try to advertise us. We put a press release in the Bloomer Advance. We sent out 6 different mailers to all these folks to try to get the message out to say, hey, sign up. We did send a contractor door to door that draws up the yard plats, meets with the customers, explains all the services to them, and helps answer any questions and plan the route through their yard so that the facilities are placed where the customer would want them. And then we put yard signs in the area. Just people driving around, they'll see that and kind of wonder what it is and check us out. So there you can see a graph of the Tilden progress. And the upper right green is 34%. That's what we have installed. Those people are on broadband fiber already and enjoying the fruits of our labors, right? The bottom, the blue section, are the people that did sign up and are pending install. So we're waiting for splicing to get done, electronics, but the main line is in. Their drops are in if they signed up in a timely manner, but the people that signed up, say in November, to try to get that through the pipeline and get plowed in, before ground freeze, it'll be next year, right? So if they signed up timely, they should have had the drop in. I'm not saying we didn't have a miscue here or there where maybe a drop didn't get put in, but we're tracking pretty good there. We've been fortunate. Eagle Point, we are waiting to finish a hut, which is kind of what delayed things, but that is in. The electronics are in, and now we're splicing. So the splicers will be working hard through December and January, and we'll be able to start making more progress in Tilden and Eagle Point now when the splicing's complete. So we're thinking first quarter we'll start working on the green in Eagle Point and in Tilden and start getting more installs. That's just kind of my brief overview. We can go over specific numbers if you want, but it's all in the report and pretty straightforward. Appreciate the support of the county to make this happen. And we've had a pretty successful year. Any questions?
Okay.
Well, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Before we move on, I don't know if this email went to all of the board members from Anna Ringstead from U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin's office as far as the mapping. If you didn't, we can probably get that to you. But anyway, you have areas, you know, where the broadband is or isn't. They're trying to update the map so they're current. Just 715-450-3754 is be the phone number. She's in Ladysmith. County Administrator, update on the 2023 health insurance.
Thanks, Chair. So we report back the health insurance. Obviously, we put it in our budget, but it's difficult to get some of the final numbers towards the end of the year in time to have 100% certainty what our budget is. We always do our best guess, obviously. And we're happy to report that we did anticipate a 15% increase in our capital stop loss, or captive or stop loss, and it came in at 12.4. So we do not have to make any adjustments to our health insurance, which is a good thing. I'll have unless there's any questions.
Okay. Go ahead,
Next one, okay. Yep. Unfortunately, Larry wasn't able to be with us tonight, but so I'll just kind of give an update. You guys can kind of read, you know, all the things that have been done. They've done a lot of work out there. If you go to the December 2022, the last green part on here, we were waiting for some reports, water samples. We had a really bad sample, but what we discovered is it was a building that's never been used or very seldomly used. That's where they took the sample from. There's no longer water even going into that facility because it's going to be torn down at some point. And they did resample, and the samples came in much better. So they're still a tiny bit high, but that'll be all addressed when we send it to the DNR and they have to do their final, telling us basically what we have to do to make the place safe. So right now we're waiting for Cedar Corp to do some additional testing. We'll send that into the DNR, and then they'll basically come up with a plan of what we have to do to mitigate the concerns in the ground and the water, in the soils and the water. So we're hoping, the hope still is that we'll be able to start doing work out there this summer. So we'll see how that goes. But so far, everything's on track. We got the letter from the DNR, and Cedar Corp's been all over it. They've done several, they've done a couple ranges, but several locations like this with hazardous material. So it's moving forward. We've communicated with Rooney's, and they know exactly what's going on. So I don't think we could do much more as far as timetable. Any questions?
Supervisor Steele.
Yeah, I think it was our executive meeting that it was brought up that the berms were filled up with the silt out of the pond over in the lake over in Bloomer. And if that's true, I mean, a lot of the samples that were taken are really skewed because it's not the dirt from there.
Yeah, we're not 100% sure about that. That's what we're anticipating because of some of the results of the test. Had some silver, arsenic and silver, and arsenic typically is not in that area. So I don't even know what the levels were because there's arsenic naturally in the environment, but
I would hope
DNR will deal with that.
Well, I would hope we would convey that to our company that's leading us through this to make sure they sample bank and.
Well, they do. Yeah, this next group of sampling is very comprehensive. Yep. They essentially have to stop sampling where they're not having issues. So they'll keep sampling if there's concerns. They'll keep on going out and out and out until there isn't any concerns with mitigating the soils or the groundwater.
Well, I mean, sampling all the berms, that's material that was brought to the site. Right?
I don't know. I have no idea, but I wasn't there when they did it.
Well, that's what was brought up at the meeting, and I guess if it's true, it's true, and if it isn't, it isn't. But I would hope that we would take samples from both.
The ground, you mean just the ground level? Oh, yeah, they definitely have to do that because that's where a lot of the lead fragments are, is on not just the berms, but on the ground.
Okay. employee engagement.
Keep on rolling. I'll have Tony come up, so we're going to kind of double team this engagement. So I'm going to start out with the first slide and basically talk about why employee engagement. So what we want to know is the first term we put up there. I'm sorry, I got the sorry. And really, this is our 4th year surveying. We did Q12 engagement surveys. We generally want to know what our employees have to say. The policies and procedure, or policies that we've brought forward to the county board over the last year have really helped with our engagement, has really had positive feedback. They appreciate the county board backing them and trying to make this the best place to work in Chippewa Valley. Without that, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. So that all came from the surveys. So we want to change and improve. So number one thing they always say, don't survey if you're not going to do anything. That will kill morale, will kill them believing that we're going to do something. Yeah, thanks. And we do. I mean, we honestly review, look at everything. Tony and I read every single comment, and then we come up with plans, obviously. We want to see proof of improvement, and you'll see that. We actually went up in our employee engagement, which is pretty remarkable considering the time frame and everything that everybody's been going through. And Tony's mentioned before that this is the first year that Gallup has seen actually engagement across the whole nation go down in their numbers. So it's been very positive to see that it's gone up in Chippewa County. So I'll let Tony take over from there, and I'll step up at the end.
All right, so the next slide here is just a little bit of history. I'm trying to kind of briefly go through some of this. We've been doing the engagement survey for 3 years. It started 4 years ago in 2019. We did an engagement survey in 2019, 2020, and 2022. We used the same consultant from Carlson Detman, Jenna Bidwell, for the first 2 surveys, and then we used a gal by the name of Christine Storley for the 2022 survey. When the results come in, they are anonymous, and they are reported in 6 different ways that are listed on here. You can see a report by the overall report, which is part of the year packet. There is a department report that is handed out to each of the departments, a division report if there is a division. So Human Services is a great example for that. They have several divisions, so they can see it broke out by division. Direct supervisor, generation, and then tenure. And you can't duplicate them. So I can't say that I would like to see a department report by tenure, because then you can start to narrow down people that are within that type of tenure, and you can start to narrow down who those people are. So it's strictly by those six types of reports that you can run. And you can't ever see a report unless there's at least 4 people on it. So I'm going to use myself for an example. I have 3 employees that report to me in Human Resources. So if I run a department report, or excuse me, if I run a supervisor report for Tony Hofelder, I got nothing. It's all asterisks because there's only 3 people that report to me. But if I run a Human Resources division report of DOA, I'm part of that, so I'm a 4th person, so then I can see the report. And so that's basically essentially kind of an illustration of how our reporting works. Those surveys were distributed in meetings in October, and then the supervisors, department heads meet all throughout the rest of the year. And then the goals from those reports and from those engagement conversations are due to the county administrator either in December each year, or this year will be due at the end of January. And then Brady also does some follow-up mid-year. So that's been our process each year, and we've followed that pretty closely. The next couple slides are really kind of an overview of the background. So when we first did this in 2019, this was the engagement in the state or in the United States. So Gallup has thousands of organizations that do the same survey with the same 12 questions, and the percentages of engaged, not engaged, and actively disengaged across the state in 2019 were 33, 51, and 16%. When we did our first survey in 2019, we were very close to the United States, a little bit better, with 35% engaged, 49% unengaged, and then 16 actively disengaged. The current state, like Randy said, has actually dropped, and this is the first time in a decade that the engagement across the United States has dropped. And obviously we know what's happening in the United States and probably some of the reasons for that. So we were actually preparing ourselves and trying to prepare department heads and managers that we were probably going to potentially see that. And historically, once you've done an engagement survey about 3 or 4 years, you start to see that fall. And so far, we've been lucky not to see that. So our overall results, I'm going to go back quick, one more thing before I move forward, is just the definition of what those 3 things mean. Engaged means that employees are working with passion. They have a psychological commitment for advancing the organization. So they have high scores in those Q12 questions. Not engaged meaning those employees are just putting in their time. They're coming in. They're not actively disengaged. They're not starting to hurt the organization, but they're not giving that extra effort. And then actively disengaged are people that aren't just unhappy, but they're trying to make others unhappy. They're trying to kind of harm the organization. When we did these engagement kind of prep before doing this, they used a boat as an illustration. So you have your engaged people who are rowing. The not engaged are just kind of sitting in the boat. And then the disengaged people are literally trying to tip the boat. So that's kind of a good illustration of what those 3 are. And so our 2019, 2020, it went up. You'll see that there. 2022, it also went up. So now we're sitting at 47% engaged, 45% non-engaged, and actively disengaged is 8. So it went from 16 to 2019 down to 8 of actively disengaged, which I think is a great, it's just tremendous. So we're getting better each year. All right, so here's an illustration of the 12 questions. There's actually a 13th question of are you satisfied? And then it goes through the 12 questions. And the 12 questions are building blocks. And so this was explained to us by our Carlson Dittman consultant. You have your basic needs, which are those first 2 questions. And then you have those individual needs, teamwork, and growth. And so what the recommendation is if there's a department that's struggling in several areas of their engagement report and they don't know where to start, you start at the bottom and you work your way up. So you want to make sure that you're at least hitting those first 2 and then you keep building. When we did the survey in 2020, we had some lower results kind of as an organization in 1, 2, and 3. So that was our goal in 2020 was to focus on improving 1, 2, and 3. And so we had a lot of activities that we did. We had some questions that we made part of our performance review process. And we did see improvement in all 3 of those in the 2022 results. So that was successful. And so now we're going to move on, as you'll see, to number 4, which is recognition. And that's what we're going to focus on here in the next year. We talk a lot about training with our managers. We can't have impact and improvement if we don't have buy-in from our managers. And I'll be honest with you, there were several managers who were having a hard time with this when we first did it in 2019. I even had 1 or 2 ask, so the employees are running the organization now instead of the department heads or the county board. And so they were trying to understand what to do with this information. And so we've really, I think they've come a long ways. And there's a lot of good conversations that we're witnessing. But these are basically all of the impact that the manager has. Engagement survey questions aren't you evaluating your supervisor, but the supervisor has the most impact on our engagement. So that's why we put a lot of time into training these managers. So managers need to go above and beyond just listening to their employees, but also lead them by making some changes based on the input, setting good examples, coming prepared to their team meetings. Don't just come to the team meetings and kind of regurgitate questions that they maybe aren't uncomfortable with, but really try to get engaged with the process. Highlighting successes from the year to year. And number 5, managers should work to connect with employees and create a safe and engaging environment during these meetings. So that took some training for our managers as well. And never stop learning about their team's strengths and developing their strengths. It's not a tool. These surveys aren't a tool to try and discern who are poor managers. It's really a tool to help our managers get engaged and help them help their teams improve. And then engagement is also a factor. It's not just our managers that impact it. Yes, they are a strong impact, but so are our coworkers. So is the county board. So is the DOA, our policies and procedures. So a lot of our questions are, as we meet with our staff, have those in mind as well. We held department head training for this cycle on October 11th and October 12th. That was led by Randy and I in our department head meetings. And then Randy and I met with Chris Storley from Carlson Detman and went through the overall report. You never know when you get a new consultant if they're going to be strong or weak or how that relationship is going to be. But she did amazing. She went through every department. She had input for every department to Randy and I to be able to help them. She had a lot of input on what we should do next as an overall goal. She really read through all of our results. So she did a really great job as a consultant, giving us that input on October 18th. All of our managers and employees were required to view a 15-minute kind of retraining, refresher video. And then all department heads were provided the results on October 25th. So they're in the process right now of holding their meetings. Randy's holding it at department head meetings as well. And then Chris and I are available if departments need help. I have definitely had department heads stop by and talk and process their results, ask for advice. But this is really a slide to kind of illustrate some of the training that we've done this year related to engagement. Countywide goal in 2019 and 2020, we really focused on communication. The survey doesn't just ask for those 12 questions to be rated, but it also gives the opportunity to answer 3 open-ended questions. In 2019 and 2020, communication was the number one thing that was cited, and so we really wrapped our heads around how to improve communication. I think it really came true. It had a lot of impact during COVID because we heard that input in 2019. COVID hit, and then our level of communication was much higher because of some of that input. And our survey related to COVID really told us that we were doing a better job with communication. Like I said earlier, 2020, we also focused on Qs 1 and 3, those initial Q12 questions on the basic needs to try and improve. And then in 2022, our focus area is on recognition, which is Q4. The response to Q10, there's a question that says that I have a best friend at work, and it is a very misunderstood question, not just by Chippewa County employees, but by several employees throughout with all their customers. And so we're trying to do a better job of increasing that response rate. Not necessarily the score, which of course we want to increase, but the actual response rate, people were skipping that question. And it actually can skew your results a little bit. So we just want people to understand what the question's asking and why it's being asked. So we're going to do a little bit more training this year on that question specifically. And then also trying to increase question 11, which is about that your supervisors talk to you about progress within the last 6 months. We definitely sit down annually and do a performance review, but we want to make sure that department heads are meeting more frequently than just that one time a year. So at least meeting every 6 months, if not more often, which some do quite often. Our team meetings, this is just a slide that illustrates what those look like. They basically sit down to review the results. They develop a list of what the county department head or manager can start, stop, and continue. That was advice from Carlson Detman. So when we sit down, we say, okay, these are our results. Well, based on these results and what you're experiencing in the department, what can we do a better job of by stopping or continuing? What can we continue to do, and what should we start doing? We also develop goals. So 2019, everybody had a goal. 2020, we paused. We asked everybody to work on communication and their start, stop, and continue due to COVID. And now this year, we've asked everybody to develop a goal again related to these results. And then to assist in achieving the 3 countywide goals, these are some ideas that we're going to be talking about with our department heads. Trying to encourage them to sit down and get that one-on-one feedback on what people prefer in the area of recognition. You know, some people like to be up here and get acknowledged. The sheriff probably is one of those people who might like to get that. Kara might be the opposite, or there might be other employees who really don't want that. They just want that one-on-one feedback. So trying to make sure that we're giving the right kind of recognition for the right people. Again, educating people on the importance of answering all the questions, including the best friend question, and then ensuring that our department heads are meeting more regularly with their supervisor or with their employees. Here is a sample of the overall survey report. Again, this is in your packet. And this illustrates here for you that what's being pointed to is the overall score for the organization. And so it's going to be at the top. The score here that's getting pointed to is the individual score for each of those questions. And so for this question, I'm sorry, I can't see it up there. I can't see it in front of me. Number of people is running, yes. So that's the number of people who took the survey. And then that's the for each question. So you'll see that sometimes it's different because less people would take a certain question, and that's where the best friend question is a lot lower. Then this is the average score for that question. So of all those people who took the survey, that's the average score, and they can rate anywhere from 1 to 5. The green section, there are variances of light green all the way up to dark green. The lighter the green, the lower the percentile you are in the Gallup database. The darker the green, the higher the percentile in the Gallup database, which means that we as an organization are doing a better job than the rest of the Gallup database in the comparison points that we're being compared to. And then the only time we'll see this on a report is if there's at least 100 responses. So it's only on our overall report, which this is our engagement score, which is what I illustrated earlier on the slides, where we have 9% is disengaged, 46% are not engaged, and then 45 are highly engaged. This is what we would say is the most important report, though, because it's a comparison report, especially now that we've been doing it for several years. This report will show you both the past and the current. So the current will be 2022, the past will be 2020. And it's going to show that we improved from the last survey to the current survey. Then it's going to show us each question if it was an improved score or if it went down. If there's nothing there, it means that there was a very small change or no change at all. So it's a good, easy way to be able to see if you're improving from year to year. It will also, these are the three areas that I wanted to point out why we have our 2022 goals. The lowest score is recognition overall across the whole organization. So that's why we're going to focus on that. You'll see right above those three that improved. That was the 3 for 1, 2, and 3 that we talked about. You'll see the response rate for best friend question. That's the lowest response rate. So that's why we want to educate that. And then progress is also a lower scored area. So that's why we want to focus on that this year. This is just a demographic illustration for you because we ran 2 reports for generation and for tenure. So you can see how many employees are within each of those generations or age brackets. And you can see how many people within them completed the survey. And then in your packet, it also shows you those actual scores. All right, I'll turn it over to Randy.
Thanks, Tony. So what is the role of the county board supervisors? Number one, and we did this early on when I came here, strategic plan. The county board establishes priorities, and that's where the organization needs to head. That's what we focus on, and it's critical for the organization to know where the county board wants to go. And when a decision has been made, the county board or committee meeting, it's important to support the decision moving forward. I've told you guys since I've gotten here, whatever the county board decides, that's the way I go. It doesn't matter if I agree with it, disagree with it, or it's wins by one vote. That's 100%. We're going in that direction until the county board changes their mind, or there's a change in the county board and you guys decide to go in another direction. And then I've talked about this before in the past too. I've seen county boards get stuck because some reason the vote didn't go the way they wanted it to go. Some members can get stuck and carry that forward. I really haven't seen that, which is great. It seems like people get on board and continue to move forward, and that's what we talk to our department heads about and our managers about. So if you can continue to support myself and our department heads carrying forward in your direction, we feel like we're being very supportive, are very supported, and then continue to support the county administrator and department head in leadership training, which is something we have been doing. Unfortunately, we had a little hiatus there, but we're starting that back up again, which I think is very important to train our employees on leadership. A lot of times in counties, the best worker will end up being a supervisor. Sometimes the best worker is not the best supervisor. So that does take training, and it does take some effort on our part to make sure they are good supervisors. So, and then what's next? So I'll be, is that it? Okay. I will be using the bi-weekly department head meetings, November, December, to discuss the survey results. I've been doing this, and we haven't been able to get through it all. A lot of participation from our department heads. Our elected officials have been great, and we've really had some really good conversations. So sometimes when you do these things, you're concerned that people aren't going to give their opinion or aren't going to feel comfortable. There's no issue with that, I would say, in our department head. They're very open, very honest, and it's good to get that feedback from our department heads. Plan to meet one-on-one with department heads, discuss the results. I've done this in the past, do it during the annual performance review, and that's worked out really well. Use monthly department head meetings to check in on progress, allow for brainstorming. I think we do a great job of that in our department head meetings. A lot of times we'll just present something at the department head meetings, and from the brainstorming, things can change quite a bit before the county board sees those end results. But I always feel like, the more people you can get together and more ideas you can have, the better results you have. And I think we've seen that. We'll review, identify training topics. We've been looking at that, opportunities, action items submitted to me by 1/31, and we'll continue to do that. We'll request an update from the department heads, elected officials, this summer on engagement and action items that develop in their departments. One good thing that also has come during our department heads is department heads will talk about what they're doing in their department. And then that gives ideas for other ones. I am not creative. I have no creative bone in my body. I am not good at that. So hearing other ideas from other department heads helps me do things. And I think it helps with the other departments too, that's just not their strength. There's different strengths and weaknesses with all our employees. And then, of course, we plan to resurvey the Q12 in the fall 2024. And we've talked about this before. We're rotating our Q12 with our stay survey. So we'll do our stay survey in 2023, which is a little different, and we've talked about that in the past. So I'm really, really pleased with our engagement program. I mean, and it is a vast, wide program, and it doesn't work unless everybody's moving in the same direction. And I feel like the board and the support you've given with our policy changes and our employees see that, and they get a lot of positive feedback from that. So it all matters, everything we do, because we just can't compete a lot of times in the side on the fiscal side. So we really do have to do this types of things to make this a good place to work. And so I'm really happy with our employee engagement program. So any questions? I know it's been a lot.
Just one I probably know the answer to is, but when you get a new, say, a supervisor who goes from line personnel to now he's the supervisor, I remember what that's like. Does that new supervisor get a little training, I would assume, before he gets put out before the wolves? I mean,
not always. I would say not always. Yeah, that's one of the things we're doing. We talked about a mentoring program, bringing someone else starts new, get a mentor to them and do that. So there's definitely things we still have to work on. We're not perfect with that, but we do have resources available. We do have our employee assistance program. So we do have some resources. We have some training that they can do, but it's definitely an area that we have to improve on, I would say.
Yeah, you can tell. I know what that's like. He's going to have someone come up and say, well, like me, it was, hey, Sarge, what should we do here now? I was, my first week as a sergeant or something.
Yeah.
And they know the answer.
Yeah. I remember it well. I was pushing a broom one day and was the head of the highway department the next. So I feel that, and I agree with you 100%.
That's good because they're the guys that, the old definition used to be, getting supervisors, they get the job done through others. Well, hopefully you don't have to use a whip. Hopefully you can just use an encouraging word. So.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else? Next.
Finances, Lori.
All right, you guys. This is for third quarter for 2022. I'm just going to skip through the definitions because I think we've talked about them before. So when I'm looking at this right now, when we're saying for third quarter, I'm really looking for expenses that are greater than 75% or revenues that are below 75%. So first of all, we'll talk about those items that are in the highlighted with the green. So the general county, that net loss over there on the right-hand side, That is because we were waiting for our state shared revenues to come in. They always come in the fourth quarter. You know, the Department of Revenue, they want to hold our money for as long as possible because they want to make the money off of our money. We did receive it, and we received $2,187,838.67. So as you can see, if we added that, we would be ahead by, 30-ish thousand. The county clerk, again, we've talked about it before, the expenses are higher, and it's because of the library allocation that's done at the beginning of the year. County treasurer, okay, this is a plus this time, I'm really happy to say. Our interest rates are starting to recover between our CDs and our Schwab investments. This is a company that we have a lot of our investments in. We are at about 72% of revenues compared to the 75% that we would hope. And I really do believe that here for the last quarter, we're seeing significant revenue. So I do believe that we'll be coming in ahead actually in revenues than what we anticipated. So when you look at it, that we had a half a year of being really down there, I mean, it's great recovery. And the child support, that is just a monthly, it's a 3-month, we're behind we're received quarterly for state aid. This is just a recap of the highlights I just shared on the previous page. And now we're going to talk about special revenue funds. The public health, ADRC, and human services, those top three, I know they show in the red, but remember they're only receive the money on a monthly basis through the department, through the state. A recovery, that Fund 209, that Recovery and Wellness Consortium, or RWC. We receive those monies usually almost 2 months in arrears from the Medicaid program. The jail assessment, that shows a loss rate now too. I really do think that it will recover pretty close to getting recovering. So I think we'll be okay because we still have revenues yet for the rest of the year. I've talked to the sheriff and the jail captain, and they know that they're short, so they'll be paying attention. And just so you know, it has a fund balance, so even if they overuse the jail assessment, the revenues are actually revenues from all the citations that are done in Chippewa County. Sales tax, the expense column will show 100% allocated, and that's because we always allocate all our CIP projects out at the beginning of the year. The last one down at the bottom is 233, the opioid abatement account. That's a brand new account. You haven't seen that on there before. That is because we didn't have any activity yet. We finally got some money in. What's projected there right now is the money that we've received from our distributor payments. As of today, we actually got all of our J&J funds also, and they actually have paid some in advance. So you'll see a different number here at the end of the year when I bring it forward next year for the fourth quarter. And it's a lot of the same recap of what we just talked about. Here is just a slide dedicated just to the ARPA, or American Rescue Plan Act funds. Over there on the left-hand side, you'll see where all the revenues come in. You'll see that we ended up getting some funding from the Fed. You know, we got that one installment from the feds, and the rest is interest income. The expenses are over there on the right-hand side. And this is only as of September 30th. I'll tell you that there's a lot more expenses. If I would go look at it right today, it's a lot different. This slide right here will just talk specifically about COVID funding and the sales tax. Over on the left-hand side, the COVID funding. This will be the last year that I plan to include the COVID funding. Most of it is actually going away. It's hardly coming in anymore. So for 2023 presentations, I won't have that part anymore. But for the 2022 sales tax review, I think this is always good for you guys to see at a glance of where we're sitting. As you can see, we're up 3.02% compared to 2021 sales tax revenues. I think that's really awesome because if you look at 2021, we were up almost 25%. So really great. That's good things for us, for Chippewa County. In this slide for the debt service funds, this illustrates what our annual debt payments are. Over on the bottom left-hand side, you'll see that's where we owe $10,040,000 in capital, or I'm sorry, principal for our debt payments. And over on the right-hand side is a long-term bond financing plan. Really understand this is just very preliminary, you know. We're hearing from the state that there may be other funding opportunities, you know, for roads and stuff. We really hope it comes through. So, you know, this is just, we got to have some kind of plan in place, and just in case it stays status quo. So that's our plan at this point. And it's something to really understand too is we're kind of keeping it below the $5 million for our transportation plans, because then we have 3 years to utilize those funds. If we bond for over $5 million, then we only have 2 years to utilize the funds. So it's really important to make sure that we know whatever projects that we're going to bond for, that we know we can get those projects done within that 2-year time frame if we're going to go over $5 million. Make sense? Okay. Capital project funds. Whenever we bond, we actually go and put what, like in this case, the highway department plans to use for the bond or for their construction. So for 2022, that Fund 416, that was for our 2020 bonding event. And they are planning to use 1.3 million for the funds. That actually will be coming through very soon. They'll be doing a transfer. They were waiting until their projects were all completed. So fourth quarter, you'll see a difference there. Oh, in back here, the 417, we, as of September 30th, we didn't receive that $3 million for our bonds, our funding, you know, the bond funds. We actually received it on October 3rd, so that's why it's not in this report. So the next report, it will show the $3 million that we got. Internal service funds. Yeah, it looks like everyone is highlighted. So I'll just give a quick little update. Highway department, you'll see that it looks like it's a very large loss. Most of it is due to that we haven't transferred for bonding in ARPA projects. So that's what has made it look like it has a loss. Fourth quarter, you'll see a big turnaround on that. The 702 fund, that would be the workers' comp fund. We had a high cost claim this year, so that is why there is right now is trending a loss. I do anticipate that we will have a loss this year, but we started out, we have $1 million on that fund right now, so we should, you know, be fine in that. The 703 fund for the self-funded health insurance. Remember, this is the first year that we went to self-funded health insurance. And if we were closing as of September 30th, we would actually have some, they call it incurred but not reported. So it'd be some payables that we would have for people who had went to the doctor who had not, where the claims haven't been paid yet. So we would have some of those outstanding yet. And the last one we'll talk about is the self-funded liability insurance. I know we've talked about this before, but in the revenues that were really short, and that is because we hadn't done the annual insurance allocation. And we have done that as of today, but not as of September 30th. And for on the expense side, we had paid the annual WMIC premium. And here, I don't have really anything to talk about. I just want to let you know the Land Development Fund. We had 2 parcels that were sold in Lake Wissota Business Park. There are 2 I know that were in the works, so they haven't been sold completely finalized yet. And something that's new that's coming through is I don't know if you remember, but back in May, Sikich had given you guys a presentation about effective internal controls and what the board has to do to help for oversight. And one of their recommendations was to implement a fraud hotline. And when we were looking at these videos. That's what they talk a lot about, is this fraud hotline. So part of their contract with us is that they were going to provide videos for our employees for training purposes. They talk about this fraud hotline, and we saw that we needed to have something for our employees so that they had a fraud hotline to report if they did have concerns, so that it would be totally outside of the county. So we had actually talked to some other counties in the state, and there are some that are using this service called Lighthouse Services. It's a company. This company just takes all these incident reports, and then they will forward it on. I just wanted to let you guys know that this is coming forward. We're going to talk more about it in January, February, but I just wanted to let you know that we are always trying to do different things here. Any questions? I tried to be quick.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Business items. Resolution 5822.
Resolution 58-22, resolution to support increased funding for Wisconsin's County Child Support Program. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors respectfully request that state funding for county child support agencies be increased by 5 million GPR in each fiscal year of the 2023 to 25 Wisconsin state budget, which will generate approximately $9.7 million in additional federal funding each year to ensure that Wisconsin counties can continue to effectively provide economic support to our children. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded by the county clerk to the governor of the state of Wisconsin, state senators, and state representatives representing Chippewa County, the secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Administration, and the Wisconsin Counties Association for consideration. Forwarded to the county board by the Legal and Law Enforcement Committee.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion to approve, Ives.
Is there a second?
Burgle, second.
Discussion.
I'll stand in for Denise. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to be here tonight. Really, this is looking to request, obviously, for the legislature to look at the upcoming budget and allocate funds. Couple big things with this is general purpose revenue. When you hear that, that's ongoing revenue. That's always the big magic word. If you can get that money set for your program, that means it's going to continue. It's like operational revenue. It's not like CIP or anything like that. So anytime in the state budget you see that GPR, you'll hear it all the time. That's what programs are always going after. The other big thing is that for every dollar spent, you get $2 from the feds. So that's why they're trying to allocate the dollar so they get some additional funding from the federal government.
Any questions? Seeing none, then we'll call the vote. Those in favor, push your green button. Are you ready? Okay. All those in favor, press the green button. If you disapprove. Yep, release.
Yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 5922.
Resolution number 59-22, resolution to approve the 2023 annual work plan of the Forest and Trails Division of the Department of Land Conservation and Forest Management, and to authorize the county forest administrator to apply for a county forest administration grant from the state of Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors hereby approves the attached 2023 annual work plan of the Forest and Trails Division of the Department of Land Conservation and Forest Management. And be it further resolved that pursuant to statute 28.11 Wisconsin statutes, the county forest administrators hereby authorized and directed to complete and submit required application materials for the aforementioned county forest administration grant in the amount of approximately $55,528.49 to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. forwarded to the county board by the Land Conservation and Forest Management Committee.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Billmore moves.
Second.
Supervisor Schmidt seconds.
Schmidt, okay, we'll give it to you this time. Discussion.
So I got Matt here to explain the resolution.
This is annual funding passed through by the DNR to county forest programs in order to hire a forester to run your county forest programs for you. It essentially pays for 50% of my salary, 40% of fringe benefits, and the dues that we pay to the Wisconsin County Forest Association, which is our overarching group organization that advocates county forest issues. It also includes the work plan, which complements our 15-year comprehensive land use plan, which are both approved by the state.
Any questions? Seeing none, we will call the vote. Just a moment. Okay. Green to approve, red to disapprove. Release.
19 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Okay, Resolution 6022.
Resolution number 60-22, resolution to authorize the development of a carbon offset program in the county forest. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors does hereby authorize the county forest administrator and county administrator on behalf of Chippewa County and in consultation with the Chippewa County Corporation Council to develop a 40-year forest carbon offset project for appropriate county forest lands for participation in the voluntary carbon market under the ACR-IFM program. And be it further resolved that the county forest administrator and county administrator are authorized to negotiate and execute a 10-year contract directly with ANU to assist in the development of said forest carbon project in consultation with Chippewa County Corporation Council. And be it further resolved that the county will increase the county forest severance payments to towns made pursuant to Section 28.11 Wisconsin statutes from the current 12% to 15% during the 10-year term of the contract with ANU. And be it further resolved that the Land Conservation and Forest Management Committee shall develop a policy for the use of funds received from the sale of carbon credits to be used for the protection and improvement of the environment, remediation of groundwater contamination, and the enhancement of the county forest. And be it further resolved that said policy shall be presented to and approved by the county board prior to the use of any carbon offset generated revenue, forwarded to the county board by the executive committee.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Supervisor Bergeron motions to approve.
And a second?
Later, seconds.
Discussion.
Thanks, Chair. First of all, we have Josh Strauss. I think that's how you say his name, from ANU, is on the telephone. So if there's any questions that he may be able to answer, he's available. I did reach out to, we talked about this quite a bit, but Bayfield County and Price County have kind of been in the forefront of this. Reached out to both of them to see if there's been any issues, concerns as they've been moving through the process, and currently there hasn't been. I did hear through the grapevine that Eau Claire County approved this, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So that is true. Okay. And then I'll let Matt go over the resolution, and then we can be available for questions, and so is Josh.
This is an opportunity for the county to capitalize on the fact that we do really good management of our county forest property, that the county forest program overall is a state-of-the-art forest management, multi-use endeavor. And that's why we've been certified through third-party certification in Chippewa County, specifically Forest Stewardship Council. But it's that third-party certification that allows us to enter into these agreements to pursue this monetization of the management that we do. Some of the things that came up during this working through the process, can we funnel any of this money to the towns? We decided that wasn't the best mechanism to try to funnel money towards the towns while we're making more money as a county forest. So we decided to use our existing county forest severance payment, which looks at the value of timber that we sell off of the county forest every year and gives a 12%. By statute, it's 10. Chippewa County is up to 12. And this resolution would move it to 15% of those revenues to the townships in which they lie. It's essentially a payment in lieu of taxes for that public ownership in those townships. The other thing we discussed was the monitoring endowment. We have a $300,000 monitoring endowment included in the plan. So once we exit this contract with Anew, which is a 10-year contract at the beginning, we're obligated to the project for 40 years. We have money set aside to do those measurements into the future. The other thing that had been discussed is the buffer pool. There's essentially an insurance pool. Say you had a catastrophic event, a major fire or a wind blow event moved through the area, and you lost a significant amount of timber. This buffer pool would be your ability to pay back those losses. The interesting thing about the buffer pool is that if you exceed it, the registry, which is certifying this project, pays 90% of the difference between your losses and what occurred. So the benefit of the county to set aside anything above that 18% is minimal in our analysis of it. Again, this is an opportunity for the county to take advantage of the quality management that we do on a day-to-day basis and generate revenue for future environmental projects. Those projects will be determined by the Land Conservation and Forest Management Committee, but some of the things that we've already earmarked are the nitrogen problems that we're having in our sandy groundwater. So you can think of this as possibly taking money from the county forest and spending into areas of the county where agriculture is dominant and where we have those environmental issues, using the quality resources that we have currently to improve the resources that are currently degraded. I'll take any questions that anyone has.
Questions?
You asked about, or you mentioned the registry that handles the buffer pool. Who is that? Or
The registry is actually who certifies your carbon credits and sells them on the market. Anew is the organization that develops those credits. They manage your project. They submit it to the American Carbon Registry. The registry signs off on it, and allows those credits to be sold on their market. And it's a voluntary market. It's not a market regulated by the federal government. So anybody that wants to buy those credits is doing it on a voluntary basis. They're not obligated in any manner to do so.
Any other questions?
Over the last couple of months, when you did the first presentation, I have talked to somewhere between 15 and 20 supervisors from Bayfield County, Price County, Clark County. Bayfield County signed on, Price County signed on, Clark County is kind of on the fence.
They have yet to, yeah,
But
go forward.
Bayfield County has educated me. It was very interesting. I spent hours on the phone actually in regards to it, and they are expecting good things from it. And I think they showed me some things. I had some concerns that we're enabling some big polluters and so on by doing this. And I guess I've come to a resolution with that I guess it's what we're doing, I think, makes good sense. Interesting. So they have 178,000 acres of county forest land in Bayfield. We have 33,000. And Price County, I think, is somewhere around 100,000. No, it's under 100,000. But at any rate, the Price County also, they had good things to say how it seems to be rolling out. And if I understand, you can correct me here. Bayfield has been signed on for some time, and it's not going to be too distant future before they start receiving some payback.
Bayfield was the first county that really dove in deep to this, did a lot of the homework for the rest of the counties, and proved the project concept to the state, went through the certification process with the state, and was really instrumental in opening the door to the rest of the counties to investigate these opportunities. And yes, Bayfield's the one first in line to pick up checks, and I think they're going to be picking up some pretty nice checks in the next year. There are 7 other counties that have signed on to it. As Randy said, Eau Claire was the 7th just last week to sign on. It is mostly counties to the north of us. When you look at the map, it's Bayfield, Ashland, Iron, Price, Rusk, Washburn, and Eau Claire. These are all large county forests. The projects require large county forests because those are the best revenue generators, right? The less acreage you have, the less carbon credits you're selling. It's also based on the fact that we take out wetland areas because those are not included in these carbon calculations. So essentially you're talking about upland forest areas.
Any other questions? Here first. On first, and then Seidlitz.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I really do support this program. There's obviously a lot of moving parts in it, and already referred to kind of the cynicism about the corporate intention. There's always discussion about, the carbon, where we're at with it, is there a need for the program, things of that nature. But this really seems like a unique opportunity, given the fact that we talked about how we would take these funds and use them towards environmental improvement processes. We've seen the reports about our groundwater, and yes, we have some ARPA funds set aside to start working on that. But as we heard earlier tonight, the ARPA funds are drying up in a pretty quick hurry here, so that is not a sustainable funding source for something of that nature. And this helps fill in that gap, and it helps fill in that gap without costing the taxpayers of Chippewa County a dime. I think that's a really big thing. And I also think it's important, the concept that we are sharing, not directly sharing revenue from this pot of money with the towns, but from that stumpage fee. 3% doesn't feel like a whole lot, but to these towns in the northern part of the county that get these stumpage fees, that's real money. These towns are always looking for any additional revenue they can, and it will go farther than 3% will go farther than one thinks in a township like this. So with the safeguards that we have in place on this, I fully support it and plan on voting in favor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Seidlitz.
I just wanted a refresher on this. Now we're pulling a big chunk of this in the first 10 years, and then the next 30 years we have very little funds to monitor the...
Essentially, it's based on a snapshot of current forest conditions, and they sell your credits based on that snapshot. And so you get your revenues in the first 10 years, which is the first 10 years that we have a contract with the new. And that's when they're out selling and marketing our credits to different corporations or organizations who want to buy carbon credits. And then after that, essentially, it's on the county to continue monitoring our measurements and making sure that we're not harvesting above the levels that we have set. And we don't do that. We consistently grow more than we're harvesting. But the last 30 years of monitoring will essentially be on the county to do or to hire out another contractor, whether it be a new or someone else to do those measurements.
Why did...
If I could have one.
This is Josh Strauss.
I don't know if folks could. Yeah, thank you. This is Josh Strauss from Anew, and I've trying to listen attentively here, and all of Matt's responses have been really dead on. So I'm only trying to chime in where I thought might be helpful. And one thing I would say is that it should be noted that following the first 10 years of the project, at the current levels of harvesting that you guys are undertaking, still approximately 6,000 credits that can be generated on an annual basis. And, that should be more than enough to, generate revenue significant enough revenue to cover, the cost of the maintenance associated with the project. So that's a significant point that you should take note of. It's not only in the first 10 years that revenue can be generated. And I would also say in a rising market, those 6,000 credits can be worth increasing values, and what we've seen in the last 5 years or so is just a consistent increase in pricing. So if you see that trend continue, that 6,000 has significant value.
And once again, that's it should, but we could be passing the buck over, kicking the can to our kids for the next 30 years after that, where they're going to be responsible for funding something that we took the money from.
That's why we're setting up an endowment fund. And we've talked about worst case scenarios. Worst case scenario, these credits go to zero and you can buy your way out of the program at a low cost for the money you've already received on the front end.
And why did Clark County decide not to get into it when they got a bigger forest than we got?
Political differences of viewpoint. I don't know what to say on that.
I did talk to the,
Excuse me, Mr. Schmidt. We have Robert Tuderberg next.
Mr. Seidler, thank you, Chair. Mr. Seidler's actually asked my exact question is if, and I appreciate Supervisor Romar taking the time to talk with other counties, and obviously it sounds like he did quite a bit of research into this. I'd be interested to know if either he or anyone would have information as to why Clark County, who has such a vast county forest, why they are not interested in this program. I would see if any of the counties adjacent to us would be interested in it. It would certainly be Clark County. So I'd be interested to know if there's any information that could be shared with the board about that.
From my understanding, what I've heard is that as I was when this was initially proposed, 40 years is a long time, and nobody wants to sign a contract that long unless the terms are very favorable to you. And I think Clark County is just being extra cautious. The longer you wait, the colder your plate gets.
Supervisor Steele.
I've got a few questions. I have contacted Clark County, talked to people down there, and that's right. They said that they didn't want to be the first one down the road. They wanted to be more cautious. Okay. And yes, these other counties have all signed on, but they've signed on in the last 2 or 3 years. And it really hasn't been rolling, so do they have any problems? No, they haven't yet. I'm not against this program, but I think that we ought to just kind of take our time and look at it and see what the other counties are doing and how they're doing it. Matt just said our plate gonna get cold, but the gentleman from the phone said it's been going up. So who knows? And who knows 40 years from now how much it's gonna cost to do that? And I don't wanna leave a legacy to somebody else.
Supervisor Schmidt.
I talked to the chair of the Land Conservation Committee down there, and he didn't have a real good answer why they haven't proceeded with it. Part of it was they've had other things on their plate and other things to do in the ensuing time. They're afraid it's going to tie their hands with their management of the county forest a little bit, which I don't really see that as being a concern from what I've seen and heard. And I frankly, with Clark County sitting on $300,000 at their tax rate, I don't understand why they're not looking at this harder. I mean, if they're really worried about it, they should be looking at at least part of that forest, because their tax rate compared to ours is astronomical. But about 12, 14 years ago, we sold the carbon credits to our farm. It was a 5-year program through North Dakota Farmers Union. And they paid back 1 or 2 years. And my wife's cousin says, well, you should wait. They're going to go up. I says, well, they're already paying back 2 years. If they go up, then we'll worry about it in year number 6. Well, by the time year number 4 rolled around, North Dakota Farmers Union sent us a letter and said, you can do whatever you want with the land you signed up because right now the market's worth nothing. If we had waited, we wouldn't have got anything. This way we got something. So that can happen too. It just, what goes up can come down real fast.
Yeah, but Robert's rules. Following Robert's Rules of Orders, I'm going to jump to Chuck, and then I'll come back to Mr. Rommeyer. Because you already spoke once, someone who hasn't spoken is priority. Supervisor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a pretty large advocate for this type of programming. It's creative, it's future thinking. And one of the things that I find in Chippewa County that is important to most people I meet is this whole, I want to be outside, I want to be in the woods, I want to be snowmobiling, four-wheeling, hunting, ATVing, etc. All of those things and many more. Programs such as this are going to ensure that those types of activities remain part of Chippewa County. You know, for better or worse, it forces us to keep our forests. And I think that that's really a strong critical value for all of us in Chippewa County. So I fully support this program.
Okay. Supervisor Roman.
I'm going to address what you said. I talked to 7 supervisors in Clark County. The chair, Hendricks, vice chair, and others. It never made it out of forestry committee. Everyone to a person told me that they really didn't know much about it. And they admitted that they really hadn't researched it. They, again, and it was said, I think, by a couple members, they didn't want to be the first. They were more afraid of making a mistake and so on. So, but I think at the end of the day, if you're not going to research it and figure out what you're really doing, I guess then where do you go from there? I think it's up to us to understand what we are doing, and I took the time to do it, and I'm convinced. So I guess that's the best answer I would give.
And I'm here to answer any questions that anyone else has.
Supervisor McGill.
The concern I got is we're gonna sign a 40-year agreement for our carbon credits. What if this market matures and in 5 years, a federal organization or a state organization says, Chippewa County, you have to be carbon neutral, or a portion of it, 50% carbon neutral or something like that. Well, now we've sold our carbon credits to somebody. Currently, we got about enough carbon credits in the county forest to cover about half of the population in Chippewa County, based on the common numbers that keep coming out. So we could put ourselves in a situation by entering into the market that's non-regulated by anyone. These are just organizations. This could be a guy in his basement. And in the future, we would not have the option to use our own county forest to ensure that we are somewhat carbon neutral.
I see the prospect of a federal regulation for carbon credits being slim, but it is always a possibility. The appetite for the federal government to go there and regulate carbon emissions has always been slight. They've never really wanted to take a big bite at it. There's always the possibility that that will change. But I assume that in any of those calculations, they would take into consideration previous contracts entered into by states and local governments. Like anything in politics, you would have to argue your point to the people passing legislation.
Supervisor Sikorsky?
I voted in committee to bring this forward. I thought the whole board should have this discussion. I agree that 40 years is a really long time. We're looking at this. I really think it needs to be looked at. I mean, 2 years ago, cryptocurrency looked like it was the best thing to ever get involved in. And I think we really just need to take a look at it cautiously. We're signing 40 years, which is a long, long time. And right now the money's coming in, but after the money doesn't come in, I guess is where I start to wonder. And I agree that, you know, if we needed that at home here, we're losing control over an asset of ours. And we really want to do that in our county.
You're not losing control of the asset. The asset is still fully, completely under control of the Land Conservation and Forest Management Committee. So this in no way cedes any kind of management consideration.
Supervisor Erickson?
I'm concerned about the legacy we're leaving, 40 years. And I can't remember at the first meeting if it was Matt or if it was Randy that talked about we weren't really going to do anything different with this forest that we would normally be doing over the next 40 years. Well, aren't we like just making the Exxon Mobil and Walmart and Delta to sell offset credits when you fly in a plane? Aren't we just making them feel good by, we're not doing anything. There isn't any gain. There really isn't any offset.
You're capturing and you're storing this carbon.
Right, but like you said, we're not changing anything. All we're doing is making the big people feel better.
It's because we live up to the highest standards of sustainable forest.
But didn't you say that we weren't really going to be doing anything different?
Correct. Yeah, we're not changing the management of our forest. And this is the point I brought up the first time we talked about this, because there are the critics of this is the 40-year contract and the fact that it's a shell game. People feel like it's a shell game. And the reason I'm in favor of this is because of what we're going to use the funds for. The purpose for us to get these funds is to help our environmental in Chippewa County. It's not helping California. It's not helping any place else. It's helping Chippewa County utilize funds that we would not have available to us to deal with our environmental issues we have here. So I think that's what the strength is. I agree it's probably making somebody feel good someplace else, but what we're going to utilize the money for, I think, is the critical part. And I think in this resolution, you know, the committee and the county board decision to use it for environmental purposes is the critical part of this.
If I could speak to that really quickly, I just want to add one additional piece. So this is Josh again from the new. One of the key things to keep in mind is that though you currently may have an intent to maintain the practices that you're currently undertaking that are absolute top of class in terms of quality forest management, with an eye towards continuing to increase carbon sequester on the property, et cetera, that's not something that's actually mandated right now. So what you're getting rewarded for is making the commitment, saying that yes, and there's been a lot of people over the course of this evening who said 40 years is a long time. This is a lot to think about. Can we do this? And that's exactly why you're going to get value out of it, because you're saying, look, we know that right now we may not have an intention to do to harvest in a manner that is considerably different from what we're doing, but that doesn't mean that that's going to be the way that it's viewed for the next 4 decades. What you do is when you step out and you say, we're going to put the flag in the ground and we're going to commit to maintaining and increasing these carbon stocks, that's what you're going to get rewarded for.
Supervisor Schmidt?
I think my thoughts were covered, so.
I'm going to hand the gavel down to Supervisor Teuteberg so I can speak on this issue. I can't, he already spoke on it. So, anyway, the risk management is what I look at on this for 40 years. And I tell you, when I first heard about this, I thought maybe this is a pretty good deal until I heard what's happening in Germany right now, the Black Forest. Black Forest is one of the most popular managed forests for over 400 years. The spigot of oil got shut off to Germany by Putin. They are now cutting the Black Forest so that people will have wood to heat their homes. Who could ever predict that would happen? So when we look at 40 years, and I look at our forestry practices we've been very consistent, but who knows what tomorrow brings? And so when it's sitting here looming right in front of us with a forest that's been managed beautifully for 400 years, and everything now goes out the window so that they can produce fuel so their people don't freeze to death this way. Who would have ever thought a 10-year contract or something to that point? Well, when I look at the risk management, 40 years, with the way things have been changing, I'm not comfortable with it. And I've talked to the vice chair of Clark County also. And I think that's what it is. I like a wait and see type thing, especially with what's occurring in our world right now. And it's not like we have to urgently do this, today. But in any event, I think the risk at this stage in our world's history is not worth it. Not unless we can see something turn around that make us a lot more comfortable.
Supervisor Sikorsky, go ahead.
I guess I just had a question is who the person on the phone is and who does he work for?
Sorry, Josh Strauss is the VP. Sorry, Josh, you can chime in.
Yeah, happy to introduce myself. My name is Josh Strauss. I'm the Senior Vice President at ANEW, the organization that put together the carbon analysis for the potential for the project and who has proposed to partner with the county on bringing the project forward. My background is in forestry and environmental economics. I've worked for ANEW in the forest carbon space for over a decade. And I've been talking to the team at Chippewa County Forestry now for well over a year thinking about this project. And I know that definitely Matt has gotten really, really far up the understanding chain and has really thought this through. But then in addition, like other folks who in the administration, like Randy, for example, have also spent a lot of time talking to me, thinking about project. And so I joined today just to try and answer any questions that happened to come up that could have used my input.
And again, who was he working for?
ANEW is the company that would be signing the contract with us to register those credits with the registry. Yeah.
Any other questions? At this point, with a motion and a second on the resolution, I'll call for a vote. Green, yay. Red, nay.
George, you gotta vote.
Would you clarify what we're voting on? Because
Whether or not to enter into a contract with ANEW in order to proceed with the
so
project.
we are actually voting on the motion that was made.
That's correct.
9 yes, 10 no.
Okay. Can you announce the result?
I'm sorry, I apologize. A motion does not carry 10 no, 9 yes. I apologize.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, Resolution 6122.
Resolution 61-22, resolution to approve the 2023 to 2025 collective bargaining agreement between Chippewa County and the Wisconsin Professional Police Association. Now therefore be it resolved that the 2023 to 2025 WPPA/CCDSA contract is ratified by the County Board of Supervisors, and the commencement date shall be January 1, 2023, forwarded to the County Board by the Executive Committee.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Okay, Steele. Discussion.
I have Tony here to go through the highlights, kind of the process, and then the change in the agreement.
All right. So June 21st was when WPPA sent Chippewa County the letter to begin bargaining. Our first meeting was held 2 months after that, changed proposals in August. And then we had 3 negotiation meetings after that, 1 in September and 2 in October, and we're able to come to an agreement on what you have in front of you today. It was ratified by the union on October 28th. Brought to the executive committee in December and then to here today. The contract length is 3 years, which is the same as the last contract. The last contract that we had with WPPA, the increases were 2.5% in 2020 and then 3.5% in 2021 and 22. Our comparables that we looked at this year again were Barron County, Eau Claire County, Rusk, Taylor, Clark, and Dunn, and then the city of Chippewa Falls. The Barron for 2023 is seeing a 2.5% increase, Eau Claire County 2%, Rusk 2%. Taylor's 1.5%, and Dunn is 3%. And then we have Clark County at 7% for 2023, and then after, I just found this out last week, the city of Chippewa Falls, depends on how many hours they're working. It's either a 9 or 12% increase after their referendum. And so when we look at those comparables, what we've brought forward for the proposal for in front of you today is 3.25% increase for 2023, and then a 3% for 2024 and 2025. One of the other items that we talked a lot about was health insurance. The current general municipal employees are paying 0% towards their health insurance premium. The WPPA is paying 10%. And so their initial request was 0. After discussing the full fiscal impact of wages, benefits, and some of the other changes that were made, the proposal is for 2023 to maintain that 10% premium, and then 6% in 2024 and 4% in 2025. So those are the main fiscal items. And then within the contract itself, there was a lot of discussion to try and get the WPPA's contract very similar to general municipal employees. It's just, as you look through the track changes to the contract that is in the packet, that's what you're going to see illustrated is some changes that get it closer to what Chippewa County's current policies are. Chair, did you want me to go through each of the changes? How did you want me to? I'm seeing some no's. Tony will do it if you want her to.
If somebody has a specific question on one.
That's what I thought.
Deal with it, okay? But, yeah, no.
For example, funeral leave, longevity bonus, employee referral, those new policies are also incorporated into this new resolution, or the new contract. Any further questions for me?
Any questions? Are you pushing your button? Or just wait?
He's ready to vote.
Oh, okay. All right. We will then call the vote. Green to approve again and red to disapprove as soon as we get the thing up. Okay, we are ready. Go ahead. Oh.
19 yes, 0 no.
Okay, resolution passes. Resolution 6222.
Resolution number 62-22, resolution to authorize use of American Rescue Plan Act funds to pay Wisconsin Professional Police Association Bargaining Unit employee longevity rewards. Now therefore be it resolved that the county administrator is hereby authorized to use the county's ARPA funds to pay one-time longevity rewards in the amount of $200 to eligible WPPA bargaining unit employees under the same terms and conditions as approved by the county board pursuant to Resolution 50-22 in the amount of $20 for each of the eligible WPPA bargaining unit employees' 5-year anniversaries missed due to the date that policy number 20 becomes effective. And be it further resolved that the county administrator is authorized to enter into and sign any necessary documents between the county and WPPA to memorialize and effectuate the one-time longevity rewards payments to eligible WPPA bargaining unit employees as set forth above, and be it further resolved that the American Rescue Plan Act plan is hereby amended to include the use of ARPA funds for this one-time longevity reward to eligible WPPA bargaining unit employees forwarded to the county board by the executive committee.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Supervisor Hunt, motion to approve.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay. Discussion.
So this resolution is really just to get the WPPA in line with the resolution that was passed by the county board, but it wasn't in their contract at the time, so we had to wait. So it's just treating them the same as all our other employees.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none, then we will call the vote. Those in favor, press green. Disapprove, press. Yep.
19 yes, 0 no.
Okay, resolution passes. Resolution 6322.
Resolution number 63-22, resolution to authorize the sale of 2 small parcels of property and to grant 2 temporary limited easements to the city of Chippewa Falls for the mill and overlay of the State Highway 124 and improvement of the curb ramps. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors does hereby authorize the sale of parcel 37 to the city of Chippewa Falls as more particularly described in the attached warranty deed for the purposes of improving State Highway 124 and to improve the curb ramps to meet ADA compliance standards. And be it further resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors does hereby authorize the sale of parcel 38 to the city of Chippewa Falls as more particularly described in the attached warranty deed for the purposes of improving State Highway 124 and to improve the curb ramps to meet the ADA compliance standards. And be it further resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors authorizes the requested temporary limited easements to the city of Chippewa Falls around parcels 37 and 38 to effectuate construction needs to complete the improvements to Highway 124 and curb ramps. And be it further resolved that the Chippewa County Administrator is hereby authorized to sign all necessary documents to effectuate the sales of parcels 37 and 38 and to effectuate the temporary limited easements forwarded to the county board by the executive committee.
Make a motion to approve that.
Okay,
Later, seconds.
and seconded by Later. Discussion.
So this is a project on 124 that they're going to give us some money, a whole $650. As you can see by the pictures, it's very small area and something they need to do in order to be compliant with the ADA standards.
Spilled more than that at the bottom.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, we will go forward with the vote. Green to approve, rest to disapprove.
Sorry, nope.
Oops,
Now it'll work, sorry.
okay. Okay, call the vote.
19 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 62, or 6422.
Resolution number 64-22, resolution to consolidate the Emergency Management Department into the Sheriff's Department. Now therefore be it resolved that the county board hereby authorizes the consolidation of the Emergency Management Department into the Sheriff's Department to become the Emergency Management Division of the Sheriff's Department. And be it further resolved that the Emergency Management Director shall become a management level position within the Sheriff's Department and shall continue to have all of the duties and responsibilities as set out in the Wisconsin statutes, Wisconsin Code of Regulations, and the Chippewa County Code of Ordinances. And be it further resolved that this consolidation may become effective upon passage of this resolution or as soon as the county administrator and county sheriff are able to complete all actions necessary to effectuate the consolidation. Forwarded to the county board by the executive committee.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Teuteberg.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
So it.
Roger.
Roger. Discussion.
Thanks, Chair. So anytime there's a vacancy, especially at a department head level, I always look at how we are doing things. I'm not a big believer in just because that's the way we've been doing it, that's the way we should always do it. I like to do some research. I did talk to the current sheriff and I talked to the incoming sheriff, and they both are in agreement with this restructure. I also reached out to all the counties, see what they do, and it's kind of all over the board. Some counties do have it under the sheriff's department, some have it as independent, some actually have it in other departments. So I have a, which I mentioned several times, a Monday meeting with administrators. There's 8 to 12 of us on there. We had a good conversation about this, and we really concluded that it's whatever's best for your organization. It can be different in each county. So the reason that I think it should be under the sheriff's department is this the physical location. This position is physically located in the sheriff's office or department, right next to the 911 center. This, they have a very close working relationship with the 911 center, which is critical in our operations. And the chief deputy, which would be the person that would be responsible for the management of this, is typically going to have more experience and understanding of that world than an administrator would. I'm a little odd or unique maybe because I was a highway commissioner and I had a lot of those classes. I did a lot of the training for that, but typically you're not going to find that. And I think they just have a better understanding of how that department or this division would be in the sheriff's department should run. And again, they have a really good, tight relationship with the sheriff's department overall, just not with the 911 center. The placement on the wage schedule is in line with the other like positions in the county. Obviously, this will be part of our study for our wage study, and if that changes through that process, we'd deal with it then. We do have something unique in Chippewa County. A lot of counties don't have this, but we do have flexibility to hire people if we have a higher standard, if they come in with experience. We're able to put them pretty much where we want on our grid. A lot of counties are either stuck to keep them at the beginning or at the most, probably the midpoint. And so we do have some flexibility there. The use, and this analysis was done. I know I put out that, that letter about using the funds for the 911 center, but this analysis was done before we even started having those conversations. And the fact that we can utilize some of the savings for that, I think is obviously a very good idea. Because we do struggle just getting employees in there. It's very, very difficult. So the only real change that anybody's going to see outward facing is they shouldn't see any change. It's really that this is not going to be a department head and it's going to be under the sheriff's department. So I wouldn't anticipate any changes in what the position does and how it interacts with the community. And if some reason we do see that, you can always change it. And nothing that can't be changed. So, but it has. I think this will work out well.
Supervisor Gutenberg has a button to speak, but it keeps taking him off. It doesn't like him.
Okay.
First, this thing is hot.
Okay,
It doesn't work.
What's up? Yes.
we will recognize.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a disembodied voice. Scared, I forgot we had, okay. To put some clarification to this, this came through committee and, there was some concern brought forward during public discussion for this in the Legal and Law Enforcement Committee that our current posting or the position as it is posted to be filled would be, compensated lower than what would be seen regionally. But as Randy stated, that would be addressed in a wage study, to take place in 2023, correct?
Correct.
And on top of that, he does have the leverage as the county administrator to place that potential hire, or that person being hired at higher in the salary range. I did field several phone calls about this from persons who were concerned, mostly in the arena that they weren't comfortable with this falling under the umbrella of the sheriff, as this position gets a lot of monies and maybe possibly equipment through grants, and they're worried that that would not be dispersed evenly amongst the rest of the community. However, I see this overall as a benefit. Anytime we can consolidate or streamline a government agency, that's a benefit. The Sheriff's Department, in my personal experience, has been working well with this department for years. You're exactly right that they do work hand in hand, especially with the dispatch center. And I encourage the persons who brought this forward that if there is that disparity of distribution of funds or resources, that can be brought to the appropriate people at the time. I'm all in favor of this.
Okay. Anyone else? Button working or not working? Seeing none, then we will call the vote. Green to approve, red to disapprove. No. Okay.
19 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Okay, resolution 09-22. Ordinance, excuse me, ordinance.
This is just a first reading.
Reading.
So we have Leslie here from ADRC to come up and explain it.
Thank you. Basically, there's an ordinance in place that identifies how the Nutrition Advisory Council, which is a component of our elderly nutrition program, how that is facilitated. And because that Nutrition Advisory Council is not statutorily required, it's just a requirement in the policies that our Bureau on Aging gives us, much like they give us a policy that tells us we have to take food temperatures of the meals, or we have to have a caregiver coalition to meet certain criteria. This falls under that same category, and therefore doesn't really need to have it as an ordinance to ensure that we are meeting the needs of getting public input in how our nutrition program operates. And so this is really just to repeal the ordinance, and then the Aging and Disability Resource Center would have a procedure in place that would identify how people are on that council, how long they serve on it, and what that agenda looks like, and basically how that council operates. And those things are already dictated by the state.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to number 9, HR Policy Manual Review. This policy, we would like to be able to go into effect for this holiday season. And so what I'm going to ask first is for a motion to waive the first reading. We have to suspend the rules and waive the first reading, and then we can actually vote on it. So
I'll make that motion to suspend the rules.
Supervisor Hill made the motion to suspend the rules.
Erickson will second it.
Erickson seconds. Any discussion? Yes, Mr.
I'll be abstaining from this vote for conflict of interest with my spouse as an employee of the county.
Okay, thank you. So yes, this will be a 2/3 vote. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, we will then call the vote. Green to approve, red to disapprove. Yep.
18 yes, 1 abstain.
Okay. Motion carries, 2/3 vote accomplished. HR policy revision.
Tony will
Make a motion to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Make a motion to approve.
Supervisor Bergeron motions to approve.
And second,
I'll second it.
Supervisor McGill seconds. Discussion.
All right, so in the packet is the track changes. I know you like policy, so I thought I'd bring another one back for holidays. And there's also a memo explaining kind of the intent of this. And just like the chair said, we're asking for a waiver so that it can affect the Christmas holiday. So what this will do is specifically why we are bringing this forward is for 911. Our telecommunicators, we have 2 that are vacant. We have 2 that are in training. We have 2 that are on an FMLA leave. They're kind of in a crisis. They've been working a lot of overtime. And they have 5 LTEs that are very instrumental in filling shifts. It allows us to save money because they're being able to come in and not at an overtime rate, but also just the mental health of the full-time employees who are constantly doing overtime. And so the request from the director was to allow them to get paid on a holiday if they work the holiday. So right now, all full-time employees receive all 10 of those holidays. If you're an LTE, you wouldn't get paid on holiday unless you worked it. So for the 1 or 2 individuals who might volunteer to work on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, if they worked 10 hours or they worked 2 hours, or the full 12-hour shift, they'd get holiday pay as well to motivate them to pick up the shift so that our full-time staff would not have to take the shift. So this was our creative way at trying to give the LTE employee some advantage to doing that. Because of the way the policy is read, there are a couple other departments that could potentially see an increase. Highway would be strictly over the winter. So for example, if we had an LTE in the winter, which we only have 1 right now, if that individual were to ask to be plowing on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, New Year's, then they would receive this. It's very rare that that would happen. It's only 1 employee. Same thing in the parks. So the parks would be another situation. We might have a parks employee who has to do some work on the holidays in the summer, and that's when they work. So there could be a slight increase in cost there. Any other questions on the policy?
Any questions? Okay, then we will call the vote. To approve, red to disapprove. Ready?
Yes.
As soon as the board comes up, okay. Yep.
18 yes, 1 abstain.
Okay, policy revision passes. County administrator appointments.
I really don't have anything to add unless there's any questions on them.
We need to put on this. So we'll need can we do them both as one?
Yeah.
Todd, or do we get each one separate? Can we do it all?
It's not individual appointments.
Okay.
So,
Okay. All right, we will vote on county administrator appointments, traffic safety commission first. I would need a motion to approve.
I move to approve the administrator's appointments to the Traffic Safety Committee.
And the second,
Peterson, second.
any further discussion? I think we're otherwise ready to vote on Traffic Safety Commission appointments. Push green to approve. Red to disapprove. Yep.
19 yes, 0 no.
Okay, then I would need a motion to approve the county administrator appointments for the Housing Authority.
Bergeron, motion to approve.
Have it-
Or I'll second, whoever, someone beat me to
Okay, so Flater is the motion maker.
I'll second.
Bergeron is second.
it. You bet.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Press green to approve, red to disapprove.
Nice. 19 yes, 0 no.
Okay, appointments are approved. Agenda items for future consideration. If you have something, get it to me and see about getting it on. Other than that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Erickson will make that motion.
Is there a second?
Supervisor Hunt, second.
Any discussion? Green to leave, red. Mine will go through.
Yeah, you're.
Jason.
We'll say.
Okay. 19.
Talking to about that, but at least the.
Fine. Before everybody leaves, an announcement, the Ag and Extension Committee meeting has been canceled for tomorrow morning. It is not rescheduled at this time.